UFC 314 was a spectacular fight card. We had 13 fights and they were loaded top to bottom with action. Even the fights that went to decision were pretty fun, were back and forth, and had some exciting moments. Alexander Volkanovski just made history. He is the only fighter 35 or older to win a title in a weight class at 155 or lower. My name is Angelo. This is We Want Picks, and I'm going to recap and react to every single fight on this fight card. But before we talk about the fights, let's talk about the bets. Overall, there was a bunch of highs and a bunch of lows. If we're talking about highs, I hit a Paddy Pimblett money line. I hit a Virna Jandiroba money line. I hit Paddy Pimblett at plus 120 to get one single takedown. I hit a Mitch Raposo plus 3.5. I had a couple of really good bets on the board. I got a full refund on Diego Lopes to win inside the distance decision, no action. Problem was, I missed two bets. One of them I actually missed. Darren Elkins plus 3.5. That was long gone, and we'll talk about him. The other one I got screwed out of. I will die on that hill. Listen, nobody hits 100%, but when you get screwed, you feel it. I had Chase Hooper parlayed with Ige Woodson over 2.5. We needed like another minute and 10 seconds for that over 2.5 leg to hit, and we got screwed. That was one of the worst stoppages we have ever seen. That exact same referee later on in the fight card was letting people take their beatings. But not Sean Woodson. We watched Darren Elkins almost die. But not Sean Woodson. That stoppage really pissed me off, but overall, interesting night. We did have some wild success on the DraftKings fantasy front. As you know, one of the many things we do at WeWantPicks.com is put out DraftKings fantasy tools and projections. Our ownership projections are quite literally the best on planet Earth, and here are the results from last night. UFC 314. We had a 2.42% margin of error. The next closest was 3.76, more than a full point away. And while that may not sound like a lot when you're competing against many thousands of other people for a ton of money, that extra point means absolutely everything. You can unlock the DraftKings ownership projections, the picks, the bets, the tools, and everything for UFC Kansas City. Right now, the website has full flipped for you. And we did announce a brand new tool this morning. It came out the other day, and if you're banging around the website and creeping through the tool menu, you may have seen it, but we didn't announce it till this morning. It's the tape index. What it has is every single fighter on every single fight card now and in the future. It has their fight, who they're fighting, and it has their full fight history. And you see these little play buttons. You click that button, boom, the video pops up. You can do your research right here on the website with one click of the button. If you expand that fighter, you'll see for that fight what the record was going into it, their opponent's record, the closing odds, the weight class, the rounds, all of that stuff. And again, you click the button, video pops up. We're not just some blind copy-paste bets. We also have a full suite of tools. Tape Index is one of those tools. You can check it out right now at WeWantPicks.com. And here are the events. If you go to WeWantPicks.com and you unlock, it's freaking $10 for an entire month. I know some of you just like to chill week to week. You show up on Saturday mornings, you check it out, you look at the bets, you have some fun. Others of you take this far more serious. You like to do your research well in advance. Well, there are no fights next weekend. Next weekend's Easter weekend. The UFC takes a break. Right after that, though, we have Ian Gary taking on Carlos Prates. Then we have Sandhagen and Figgy, and then we have UFC 315. But in that off week, if you want to get ahead of the curve, go to WeWantPicks.com. Every single one of our tools are ready to go. The picks will be updated as we go. The bets will be updated as we go. The tools are not only built out for UFC Kansas City, but for the future as well. Check all of them out right now at WeWantPicks.com. It's freaking $10. It's $10. The time you save alone on this, all the research you do trying to find fights to watch tape, the time you save alone is worth $10 for an entire month. WeWantPicks.com. Let's go ahead and talk about these fights. Every single fight on this card was good. Every single fight on this card was good. I picked Nora Cornolle, but I said, listen, this is a tricky fight. Hailey Cowan's just big as shit and athletic and could pull something off. And you know what? In that first round, that's what we got. A big as shit, very athletic Hailey Cowan. Second round, things changed a little bit. The caption of this slide is, why did she wrestle? Because Nora Cornolle, all they did was rattle off every single one of her striking accomplishments. Muay Thai world champion, Muay Thai this, Muay Thai that. I think we're at a point now where these Muay Thai world championships are as dumb and garbage as some of these jiu-jitsu world champions. All it takes is somebody to start a promotion and they can hand out a belt, and there's your world champion. And it seems to be the case because Nora didn't seem to be anything special in the striking. Her grappling, however, very underrated. Her grappling looked spectacular. She ended up getting this win. You sort of leave this fight being like, okay, you were supposed to win. You were a 3-1 favorite at close, I believe. And you beat a woman who has been in this sport for not very long and is coming off of a 2-year layoff. So Nora Cornolle got it done. She got the finish. Jacob had the -3.5 as a bet, so that hit. And we were off to the races. And Jacob tweeted for free, not premium, Nora Cornolle to finish in the second round. And that's exactly what happened. And oddly enough, he also tweeted a Marco Tulio to finish in the second round. And that hit. So a couple of those free random Twitter bets were absolutely on fire. And the other thing that was on fire was Marco Tulio. Marco Tulio looked unbelievable. I think he might be the highlight of this card. If you objectively zoom out and just think who left this card looking phenomenal. We could talk about Paddy Pimblett or we could talk about Marco Tulio. And Marco Tulio just put on an absolute showcase. I don't think there was 15 seconds in this fight where Marco didn't look good. There was one point where he ate a big right hand. He backed up a little bit and it was like, oh, but that looked a little more off balance than it did like he was in actual trouble. Marco Tulio did whatever the hell he wanted to on the feet. Spinning back elbows, spinning back fists, spinning back kicks, straight rights down the middle, big overhands, uppercut. He did whatever he wanted to do whenever he wanted to do it, and he looked spectacular. If I have some criticism, the only thing would be there were a few times where he was basically on Tresean's back, and it just looked like he didn't know what the hell was going on. And I don't know if that was, hey, I'm dominating the striking, I don't really give a shit about this, or if, like, literally there's some gaps on the ground. I'm not 100% sure, and we won't know because he hasn't fought anybody at this level that has been able to really take him down. He hasn't really engaged in any grappling. His striking, however, spectacular. And I should not have stayed away from this fight. I did stay away from it because I was like, Tresean's the kind of guy just will sneakily show up looking like an all-American wrestler one day. But he didn't. What I will say, Tresean's got a shit on him. He has had a chin on him. He took shots. Huge, giant shots. He was almost finished 3-4 times, then just shakes it off, keeps moving forward. Ultimately, Marco Tulio looked absolutely spectacular. Tresean Gore, at this point in his career, he was only 7 fights into his entire career. He's fighting a pretty good guy. Can't write him off just yet. His losses are all quality. We'll see what's next for Tresean Gore, but Marco Tulio, I am very curious what's next for him. Then we had Mitch Raposo versus Sumudaerji. Listen, this is going to be an interesting one, and you guys are going to be annoyed. I can already tell. I already know how this shit goes. I picked Mitch Raposo as an underdog, and that doesn't matter, though, because I bet him at +3.5, and that bet hit. If you don't know what that means is I bet the spread. You buy points on the judge's scorecard. The way the math works out, it can go a million different ways, but effectively the way the math works out is if you win one round on the scorecards. He lost a split decision, so we were good. We were good. That bet hit. I'm fine with it. So I got paid on the bet, so I don't want to hear bias Ange bullshit. I thought Mitch won this fight. I thought he won this fight. He had, 7 or 8 different takedowns? He was moving forward. He was grinding. All I keep hearing is damage, damage. There was no damage. People talking about, oh, Sue definitely won this fight. Damage is what matters. You guys are making it sound like Mitch's face looked like Michael Chandler's face. I didn't see that. He looked fine to me. What I did see is a guy moving forward, ragdolling, controlling, taking the fight where he wanted to go. I hate what's happening. I hate that wrestling means nothing. I hate that it means literally nothing. Why does it mean nothing? If I can stand here and I land, let's say, 20 jabs to your 2, I'm the better striker, right? Fine. I landed 20, you landed 2. I'm the better striker. But then if I go in there and I take you down 8 times and you take me down 0 and you can't defend my takedowns, why does that count for literally nothing? Why does that count for nothing? Now, if you land 20 strikes and the opponent lands 0, you dominated the striking. It seems to be the only thing anybody cares about. But let's say you land your strikes, not a mark on the face. But I pick you up and I slam you on your face and your nose explodes and your eyes swell and your face is fucked. Well, that was damage from that one single takedown. But on the feet, you dotted me up. In this new world where people only care about damage, wouldn't that matter? I hate what's happening with the scoring. I hate that wrestling means nothing. I understand cage control. That means nothing. That's fair. That's fine. But this whole, he didn't do anything with the takedowns. But he did it 8 times. He did it 8 times. He picked a human being up and put them down where he wanted to. He moved a fight from where it was to where he wanted it, and it counts for nothing? The only way that counts is if you're striking? Well, then this isn't MMA anymore. This is striking. I only want to see you striking, either on the feet or on the ground, but you got to be striking. Anything else is bullshit. My bet hit here. Again, if I'm biased towards wrestlers. I don't really give a fuck about the outcome of this. I just hate what's happening with the only thing that matters is striking. Wrestling is important. Wrestling is an aspect of MMA. If you want to make damage the number one criteria, fine. But there are other components. You can't get tossed around for 15 minutes, but land a few jabs that create a small cut and then win. That doesn't seem fair to me. It doesn't seem fair. Mitch Raposo is good. He is winless in the UFC. They should give him another fight. I don't think he should be cut. He's had 2 good outings so far. And the wrestling is a new little wrinkle. He said he would do it, and he did it. And it's a new little wrinkle. Sumudaerji, I mean, he looked exactly the way we thought he would look. I just didn't think he'd win the decision. He's got good pinpoint accurate striking, and that's kind of it. Doesn't have a ton of power, not wildly fast. He's just super accurate, and he knows what he's doing. Then we had a sort of, there's levels to this kind of fight. Michal Oleksiejczuk just smoked SD Dumas. Just smoked him. And I know some people said, ooh, bad stoppage. It didn't seem like a bad stoppage. I mean, he was laying on him, landing strikes at a remarkable rate, and SD was doing nothing. You can't just eat elbows. And this is somebody who did the over 1.5 in Prize Picks. So I was expecting this to go a little bit longer because SD does have a chin on him. But he got dropped, and he was just eating strikes on the ground. And yeah, he was blocking. They were hitting his forearms, but he wasn't moving. He was doing literally nothing to get out of that position. Just eating strikes to the forearms, some sneaking through. He wasn't moving. He wasn't trying to improve position. He wasn't trying to get out of there. You can't just lay there like this getting railed on and expect to be okay. And when I reason the caption is there's levels to this, it was very clear. It was very clear that Michal is just much better. And if you look at Michal's losses, it makes sense. He's losing to Shara Bullet. He's losing to Kyle Barallo. Like, he's losing to top middleweights in the world. SD Dumas, on the other hand, not losing to quite that same caliber of fighter. Michal Oleksiejczuk was a great striker. He came into this. The only question would be if SD Dumas was going to grapple a little bit. Didn't even get the chance. Got absolutely blown through. Got torn through. Michal, good for him. Great win. Congratulations. He's the type of guy, he lost his fight to Kyle Barallo, then started training with him. Good for him. We didn't see any of that training. I mean, I guess obviously they work on striking. We didn't see any of the ground game improvements, but we didn't need to. Good for Michal. SD, I don't know how much longer he'll linger around the UFC. I think they brought him in. He was a popular guy. He had that street fighting background, big social media presence. And then once everything started to come out about his troubled past and a couple of more arrests while under the UFC roster, I think they were sort of like, do we need, like, is this worth the headache? Every time he fights, this all has to come back up. I don't know how much longer he'll be in the UFC. He's clearly not UFC caliber. And if you're not UFC caliber and you have troubles outside of the cage and you're not super popular, like, what the hell are you doing here? What are you doing here? See ya. Then we had a murder. This was a murder. We saw a murder. I don't know if Darren Elkins is okay right now. Darren Elkins might literally have a brain bleed. Like, that dude looked bad. Darren Elkins looked awful. And what's funny is Julian Erosa got on the microphone talking about, I've beaten prospects. I've beaten veterans. I've looked good. Honestly, Julian didn't look good. Darren Elkins looked horrific. Darren Elkins looked the worst I have ever seen a fighter look before. And I'm not talking about, like, we've seen some pretty shitty fighters. I'm talking about, this is somebody we know doesn't suck. This is somebody coming off a couple wins in a row. He has plenty of wins at this level, and he came out and he looked awful. It looked like everything was in slow motion. It was awkward. It was terrible. You're watching him right here hang on to an ankle for dear life while just getting abused to the side of his head. And the referee let this go on for a very, very long time. Darren Elkins might not be okay. It was, when I say bad, it was bad, the beating he took. So I left this being like, ew, that plus 3.5 bet was stupid as shit. But I also left it being like, God, dude, is he okay? The commentators were talking about he's too tough for his own good, and they're not wrong. They also talked about he has been in a lot of wars, and he has taken a lot of damage in the past. And that is a problem. That does catch up to you, and it seems to be catching up to Darren Elkins. He literally was fighting in slow motion, like his feet were stuck in the mud. Julian Erosa just didn't look very good, but he looked younger. He looked not problematic, so he was able to win this fight, and, we'll see what happens next. I'm not sure what they do next with Julian Erosa, but honestly, they should do Darren Elkins a favor and be like, listen, we appreciate you. I know you got to feed your family. Let's figure out how to get you on the payroll, but inside of a cage, fist fighting, we gotta help you out. We got to help you out. You can't do that anymore. We'll give you a check, be a motivational speaker, do something. I don't know what. Do something. We'll give you a check. We'll keep you fed, but you can't fight anymore. It was bad. It was bad. And this, I understand the odds said that this was kind of a mismatch, and the odds ended up being correct, but it was bad. And fun fact, 13 fights on this card, only 2 underdogs won. Only 2 underdogs won on a 13-fight card. That is nuts. Darren Elkins was not one of them. Then we had this. This happened more than one time in this fight. I would say in a 15-minute fight, they were in this position for, 4 minutes between 2 rounds? It was absurd. So listen, on one hand, Chase Hooper looked great, right? He was physically large. His striking clearly had some improvements. We saw some nice takedowns out of him. All right, there's the positives. The negatives is Chase Hooper at times doesn't seem to know he's in a fist fight and just thinks he's in a fun mat roll session. Some of the bullshit, like these are not moves for MMA. These are not moves for MMA. What did Joe call it? The crotch stretcher? The hell did he call this move? Not every move is meant for MMA. They just aren't. And I understand jiu-jitsu's evolving at an incredible pace, and we saw that here because Jim Miller has been a black belt for 20-something years, and he didn't look like one, right? Jim Miller looked like a really solid purple belt. He looked like a purple belt who has good defense. He had no offense whatsoever outside of Chase was very willing to be on his back and do dumb shit so he could be on top and wailed away. Jim Miller jumped guillotine several times, didn't get any of them. And he should have known, I'm not going to guillotine Chase Hooper. So I understand the sport is evolving at an incredible rate, but this is still a fist fight, and there's just not room for some of these moves. Banana splits, crotch splitters. There's just not room for this stuff. And I know I just did that rant before about why doesn't wrestling matter anymore? Wrestling is a big deal. Wrestling should mean something. And the opposite of that is that all people care about is damage. So yes, in this era where the only thing that people care about is damage, you can take some risks and be on your back and not necessarily worry, oh, I'm on my back, I'm going to get screwed out of a decision here. Because back in the day, if you were on your back you could see somebody get the shit kicked out of them on their feet and they would shoot one takedown, get it, and they would steal the round. We've overcorrected. We've gone too far. But in this we've gone too far world, Chase Hooper can get away with rolling around on his back. We saw that on the scorecards. Although he did lose that first round. And he lost that first round because he was playing this dumbass game. Not this one specifically, but playing the I'll hang out on my back, I'll make something happen game. And Jim Miller was just sort of punching him in the face. So while Chase Hooper did look good, let's remember, Jim Miller's 40. Chase Hooper did ask for younger fighters, but Chase Hooper needs to tighten some of this up. Use these things. Go do grappling matches for money and use these moves there. And in here, use MMA moves. Arm bars, triangles, work your top control, scrambles, create a crazy scramble, knee bars, normal moves, right? A twister. A twister is about as crazy as this shit will get. These moves, don't do it. You just put yourself in dumbass positions. It looks ridiculous. You can get punched in the face. This is MMA, not jiu-jitsu. And I saw a clip. I don't know how much he trains with Mikey Musameko or whatever his name is. We've seen clips of it. This could be the output of that. You train with such an incredibly high-level grappler who only knows grappling, and you get used to these type roles. And while it's fun and it's important to work on your grappling, it's also important to be realistic about where you are, what you're doing, and the fact that a fist could come flying to your face. I'm very curious who they give Chase Hooper next. He is improving at an incredible rate. He does need to do a little more gym work. He's not quite as strong as he should be, but Chase Hooper's good. The hands looked very improved. The grappling has always been good. If I am his coach, I'm dialing in the grappling. And I'm getting him a little more physically strong to defend some of these things, to work against the cage, bully stuff to the ground so he can be in control of the strike. He's not going his way, but he's improving. Things are going well. He won this fight 2 out of 3 rounds, so he didn't win that first round. But Chase Hooper wasn't worried about this fight. We'll see what happens to him next, who he gets if he does get a younger opponent that he has. He also said something about, I didn't have a ton of time to train. I was getting too many enemas. Did I hear that correct? You know what an enema is? They shove a tube up your ass and just fire water up there to clean you out. So I don't know if that's what he said, but if he did, yikes. Then we had my queen, Virna Jandiroba. I sat here. I did the best bets video, and I had her listed in one of my most confident picks. If you don't know, I do a video every week giving you my actual bets, but also talking about my most confident favorites and some solid underdogs, and then you can sort of do with that what you will. I put Virna Jandiroba in as one of my most confident favorites. I had a bet on her as well, and people are like, that's crazy. Virna, she's not confident. That's crazy. She's going to gas. So Virna did exactly what I thought she would do. She grinded forward, got takedowns, and we knew Xiaonan has some grappling holes. We knew that. We saw that. And this isn't a picture of Virna with Jan. This is actually a picture of Virna in her last fight with Amanda Lemos. The only reason I have this here is because there wasn't a good picture of her basically getting this exact same armbar with like 1 second left in the Xiaonan fight. Plus, I love this. I wanted to do Virna some justice, right? She came out here. She won this fight. This is the only picture I could find where both of her eyes are facing the same direction. So I want, good for her. It's a great picture. Let's just ride the picture. Who cares? It's just a backdrop for this beautiful voice. So Virna, congratulations. Hopefully this flattering picture makes you feel good. But she did look good. I mean, who else in this division should be getting a title shot? I think it's got to be Virna. She's proven. Is she the best fighter in the world? No. Is she the most dynamic? No. But she is tough as shit. She will move forward and she will grind. All the questions about her cardio, she didn't seem to fade in this fight. She seemed to be able to do what she wanted to do. I didn't see her slowing down. And you know what? She did not have a great first round. She ended up winning that first round because she threw up an insanely tight armbar at the end, stole that round 30-27 across the board. But up until that point, seemed a little dicey. And it felt like in the second, I started to get nervous. I had money on Virna, and I started to be like, oh, man, that's her best round. Jan's going to start to be able to defend the takedowns. Virna's going to slow down. But it was the opposite. Virna picked up speed. Virna got more aggressive. Virna had more success. So Virna looked good. Good for Virna. Quite the win streak here. She's doing phenomenal things right now. And even this fight, this was a decision, the second decision of the night. Basically the only decision outside of the main event and the Chase Hooper fight. And it still wasn't a boring fight. This is a spectacular fight card. And this wasn't boring because we had a couple of almost finishes. Virna's aggressive. It's not just typical lay down, do nothing. What is brutal is this was going to be that plus 2.5 or the over 2.5. I did the over 2.5 on the Dan Ige fight, which is next. We got screwed. We'll talk about that. I was going to do the over 2.5 on this. And the only reason I didn't is I was like, Virna could find a submission or death gas. Neither one of those things happened. She dominated, did well, great control, good for Virna. She needs to get that next title shot, and if she doesn't, it's a catastrophe. And speaking of catastrophes, take a look at Sean Woodson in the back arguing with the referee. That is a valid argument. We've seen many not so valid arguments. Many times, right? Many times we've seen a stoppage, they argue with the ref, and it's like, dude, no, you were going to die. He saved your life. That's not what we got here. Overall, this was a fun back and forth fight. It was a very tense fight. Dan Ige, much smaller guy. The height difference was nuts. It looked like Sean Woodson's knee was at Dan Ige's hip. Like, the size difference was crazy. But we know Dan is Hawaiian tough, and he moves forward. He ate some big shots. He landed some big shots. He tried to dirty box his way in and get to the head. And we saw it. And you know what? For 2 rounds, nothing crazy happened. Just some good forward pressure from both guys. It seemed like a close-ish fight. Turns out, I'll show you the scorecard in a second. Turns out Dan Ige was up 2-0 going into the third. But I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit. I didn't bet on the outcome. I didn't bet on a specific fighter to win. I bet on this fight to go 2.5 rounds. And a lot of that had to do with both of them are pretty tough. Dan Ige is insanely tough. I thought Dan would struggle with the range, and, you know, we'd have the fight that we basically had. Except in the third round, with like a minute and 10 seconds, a minute 20 seconds before the over, Dan Ige lands a good shot. He gets Sean Woodson rocked. I'm not denying that. Sean Woodson was rocked, shoots a bad takedown, hanging onto a leg. Side of his head's getting hit a little bit, somewhat like Darren Elkins. But the difference is Sean Woodson was coming up. He only took like 4 shots to the head. Was like, nope, not a good idea. Was working his way up, like basically going to stand up, and the ref stopped it. And you could tell that ref could not wait to stop this fight, because about 40 seconds earlier, the ref was like right there. He could not wait to stop this fight. And the very second he got the opportunity, he did. It was a horrific stoppage. And if you disagree with that being a bad stoppage, you're just a fucking idiot or a troll. Every single person agreed it was a bad stoppage. Everybody. The commentating team was like, this is the worst stoppage I've ever seen. It was objectively a bad stoppage. And keep in mind, I hope some people, the problem is when you broadcast a video out and it gets 20,000, 30,000 views, you can't count on all 30,000 of those people to not be stupid, right? Some of them are going to be idiots. And there's an idiot listening right now that is going to be like, LOL, told you Ige would win. That's not the fucking point. That's not the point. Ige was going to win. He absolutely was, because here's the scorecard. Ige was absolutely 100% going to win. That was not the point. That's not what I'm upset about. Now, if Ige landed 10, 15 more shots to the side of the head, and they gave Sean Woodson that same courtesy that they gave Darren Elkins, then yes, stop the fight by all means. But in no world was Sean Woodson just absorbing blind damage. He was literally working his way up. He was defending. He was getting himself out of a bad position. And it was just too soon. Couple of shots. He's like, nope, I don't want to be here. Let me work my way up. Stop the fight. It was a bad stoppage. The right person won the fight. Dan Ige was going to win the fight. He did win the fight. That is all correct. The way he won is not correct. At least not yet. If it kept going a little bit, sure. That's my issue with this. Andrew Glenn, you dumb fuck. The UFC goes to these random fucking cities, and I get Florida's got a pretty robust local MMA scene, but they go to these random fucking cities with these referees that are not used to doing these big time fights, and then it's the UFC and these big events, and there's bright lights, and it all matters way too much, and then shit like this happens. The other thing that bothers me is, and I know stopping a fight is a very tricky circumstance because you can't necessarily unstop it. Because if the ref went in, stopped it, then was like, fuck, bad call, my bad call, I'm sorry, restart. The only way you would be able to do that is if, like, let's say you took a point away from Sean Woodson, or you gave an extra point to Dan Ige. Like, listen, you were about to finish, I stopped it for you, but it was a bad stoppage. I'm sorry. And in order to account for my mistake, give an extra point or I'll take a point away. But the problem is you really can't do that with a bad stoppage, because then, you know, Sean gets time to recover. And then what if Sean wins by finish a little while after that because he recovered? So it is such an annoying, tricky situation. But this is why we have multiple referees, multiple judges watching. We have instant replay. It was an annoying situation. It was a very frustrating situation. And I just hate when things are not clear. I'm perfectly fine losing a bet. We lose bet. We're betting on the most volatile sport on planet Earth. These are fist fights. Losing a bet is what it is. But losing a bet like this, because of a mistake from a freaking referee. Brutal, bullshit, annoying. Then we hit the main card. And this fight set the tone for this main card. Nikita Krylov looked good early. Nikita Krylov had Dominic Reyes rocked. On ice skates, rocked early. Early, he had him in a bad way. And then he moved forward. Then there was some back and forth. Then they both cracked each other. And then the pace slowed for a little bit. And then Nikita started to feel himself again. Literally ran into a giant shot from Dominic Reyes. It put him out cold. It literally was running forward, ate the shot, and fell down running. It was like a movie with like getting shot with and he fell like that. It was crazy. So yeah, Dominic Reyes, we know already has power. He's gotten some finishes in the past. He has some power, and a gentleman ran directly into his fist. Only 2 underdogs on this entire card won. It was Dan Ige and Dominic Reyes. Every fight before that, every fight after that was the favorite. Good for Dominic Reyes. He went from an all-time losing skid, 4 losses in a row, 3 knockout losses in a row, to a nice 3-fight win streak. Beat Anthony Smith. Does that really matter? Dustin Jacoby win was solid, and this win is solid. Sure, Nikita Krylov's coming back after 2 years away, but I don't know if that's an excuse, because Nikita looked good early. He didn't come out slow and sluggish. He didn't come out here looking like Darren Elkins with his feet stuck in mud. He looked good. So I don't think the 2-year layoff's an excuse. You looked good. You just ran into a punch, made a big mistake. Good for Dominic Reyes. It's good for the division if Dominic is good. It's important. This is a weak division. The light heavyweight division is not, it's a weak division. And it's good for the division when you have somebody building some hype, injecting some juice, making some stuff happen. I don't know who he should fight next. Jamal Hill can't seem to get his shit together. But it would be nice to see, let's see Dominic Reyes versus Khalil Roundtree, right? Khalil lost that. I think they rebooked Khalil and Jamal Hill for, I don't know, some fight night or UFC 315. I forget. They did rebook that fight. But let's give Dominic Reyes somebody that matters to see, is he actually back, or is it just, all circumstantial wins? Then we had what many felt like was the people's main event. We had John Silva taking on Bryce Mitchell. And this was a wild swing in public opinion, because when this was first announced, it was right on the heels of Bryce Mitchell talking that ridiculous nonsense on his podcast, saying all sorts of wild, controversial shit. And it was pretty unanimous, right? That's when Dana White said he's dumb as hell. It was pretty unanimous that people were like, fuck Bryce Mitchell, what an idiot, he's dumb, whatever. And then they announced the John Silva fight, and people were like, Bryce is going to get murdered. And that was the energy for a long period of time. And then the fight started to get closer. And all of a sudden, Bryce Mitchell is witty and funny. And Bryce Mitchell has all these incredible moments in the press conference. And he looked great at the weigh-ins, physically looked much bigger than John Silva. And all of a sudden, the public opinion started to swing. The line collapsed on itself. People were rooting for Bryce Mitchell. They went from hating to him to rooting for him. He was aura farming like crazy. Not even farming, actually, because the opportunities presented themselves, and he just had absolute fire. The whole put the dog down thing. First of all, he's talking about coyotes, you idiots. The whole putting the dog down thing. The whole, you have Lord on your chest, I have him in my body. All that shit was great. He looked great. He was speaking great. People were loving him. Public opinion was swinging. Then he came into this fight. Didn't quite live up to what it was going to be. It was somewhat competitive. There were moments where Bryce looked decent. There were moments. Jean Silva jumped guillotine twice. And now it ended up working out for him because he created a scramble. The second time he jumped guillotine, he ended up in this position. He had the guillotine. Did he jump? Did he fully jump? Now I'm forgetting, but I think he was threatening with the guillotine. Then it created some sort of scramble, and then he turned it into a ninja choke, and he full submitted Bryce Mitchell. And before you see the results and assume that Jean Silva out-grappled Bryce Mitchell, that's not what happened. Bryce Mitchell was striking for the vast majority of the first round. Then he started to shoot some takedowns, had mixed success. He had a couple of solid takedowns. He had a couple of really bad entries. He had a couple of takedowns stuffed. Bryce landed a bunch of really good leg kicks. It was very clear that the game plan coming into this fight for Bryce in his camp were leg kicks. He was doing that John Jones kick to the knee, try to explode your leg. He was doing a bunch of outside leg kicks. Didn't really matter. But this is also when I started to be like, dude, I can't stand Joe Rogan on the mic anymore. And this is coming from somebody, I have seen every single UFC when it aired. Every single one. Joe Rogan's voice brings out nostalgia. When I hear Joe Rogan on the mic at these fights, it feels like it's going to be a big event. I've been watching UFC when it was banned, when you had to go to Sam Goody to get it on a VHS. I watched it when it came back, the Tito Ortiz era, the Chuck Liddell era, UFC Vendetta, when we would have Mike Goldberg and Joe Rogan, and those voices are burning in my brain because you didn't have fight nights back then. We had no fight nights. It was a numbered pay-per-view once a month if you were lucky, sometimes once every other month, once every 3 months. And I would wait and look forward to it. I was watching it when it was UFC.tv because they didn't own UFC.com. Somebody else did. So hearing Joe Rogan's voice when I grew up watching this has a sense of nostalgia. This is a big event. Joe Rogan's there. And then I hear him start saying some dumb shit. And it's like, my God, dude. I don't know if, and he's obviously very well-spoken, very intelligent. He understands the sport better than most. He understands the jiu-jitsu positions better than most. He has his own taekwondo background. Like, he's obviously insanely knowledgeable. My issue with Joe Rogan is he latches onto narratives and he refuses to pivot. Bryce Mitchell landed a handful of good leg kicks. It was clear that was his strategy. And all we heard from Joe for 5 minutes after that was Jean Silva's legs. Well, Bryce Mitchell, watch the legs. Jean Silva's legs. You see the redness? You see the... Dude, Bryce Mitchell landed a few kicks. Great. Good for him. Jean Silva didn't limp. Jean Silva didn't struggle with anything. His legs got kicked a few times. It didn't fucking matter. Stop talking about it. And there was a lot of that coming out of Joe Rogan. I feel like him and Darren Elkins should probably start to take a step back. And I hate that because, like I said, it brings a lot of nostalgia. And that whole rant kicked off by saying Bryce Mitchell had some success with the leg kicks. That was it. That was it, because even on the ground, when he had that one takedown, wasn't able to do much with it. It was very clear Jean Silva was insanely confident. Obviously, we picked him to win here. I had no bet whatsoever on Bryce because I just didn't trust it. I also didn't fully trust the Jean Silva side to bet on that, but I did pick him to win. And part of my logic was, in that Charles Jourdain fight, he was taken down 3 times, which is embarrassing. You should not be taken down 3 times by Charles Jourdain. And that's what had me worried to not bet on him. But I picked him. I didn't take that was taken down 3 times and then use that as a mechanism to root for Bryce Mitchell. I took that and said, I'm still going to pick Jean because he was so composed. He got taken down 3 times, kept his composure, not a care in the world. And that's what we had here. He didn't seem to be afraid to get taken down, which opened up his hands, which is where he had the success. Then we have Patricio Pitbull get absolutely lit up by Yair Rodriguez. And that is a bit of an exaggeration, but he did lose this fight pretty clearly. The reason it was a bit of an exaggeration, though, is Patricio had some success. He landed a couple of massive shots. He landed very clean on Yair more than one time. A couple of interesting scrambles. When he ended up on top at the end of, I believe, the second round, he had a ton of success there. Just didn't have enough time to really do anything with it. So Pitbull had a decent showing. They didn't do him any favors with a matchup like this. Yair Rodriguez is fun. He's creative. He's a very good, accurate striker. Yair was definitely more measured than usual. We didn't see the craziness out of him. Not a lot of insane spinning techniques. What was annoying, though, is this should have been your 5-round fight instead of Paddy and Michael Chandler. Paddy and Michael Chandler got done in the third. Was going to get done in the third no matter what. Never felt like it needed to be a 5-round fight. This should have been your 5-round fight because both of these guys have 5-round levels of experience. Patricio Pitbull, long-time Bellator champion, both 145-pound, 155-pound. Yair Rodriguez, the former interim champion of the world, fought for a belt as well after that. This should have been a 5-round fight. I have not given up on Patricio Pitbull. He's young. He's not young. He's 36 years old. So there's not like a ton of life left in his career, but he didn't look old here. He just was a little too small for the giant Yair Rodriguez. Patricio also didn't wrestle. He just kind of moved forward. He sort of lucked into that top position. But Patricio Pitbull landed some clean shots, moved forward, tried to Mike Tyson his way in. Yair's just too fast, too slick, too long. I talked about Yair's got a quit button. Ultimately, he gets that quit button when you can grind on him and get him to the ground. And Pitbull did have a little bit of that success, but not enough. He needed to do more grinding, get Yair against the cage, drag him to the ground, wear on him there, and then you might have some success. So Yair Rodriguez came off a couple of bad losses, stoppage losses, back-to-back stoppage losses, and then was able to pull this off. And then he gets on the microphone and says, I want a title shot. Okay, well, you're 1-2 in your last 3, and you got stopped twice. So you're not quite ready for that. But, and especially with Movsar Evloev, that dude, if Aaron Pico comes in here and actually fights Movsar, instead of Movsar getting a title shot, and somehow Yair Rodriguez gets another title shot after Alexander Volkanovski already beat the shit out of that dude, that's insane. That's insane. I mean, if you do Pico runs through Yair Rodriguez. They're probably going to do, this is what they're probably going to do, Yair Rodriguez and Diego Lopes in, I think it's Mexico in September. That's what they're going to do. And that makes sense. I'll watch that fight. We'll talk about Diego Lopes. If he's going to be frozen and not throw his hands, Yair could actually have a little bit of success. If they make it a main event, he's got 5 rounds. Maybe Diego, we just saw that his cardio's fine. But I think that's what's going to happen. Pitbull, give him a win. Give him a win. He's here. Bellator doesn't exist anymore. You don't need to just bury Bellator, right? It does not exist anymore. It's not a thing. You paid the money. You brought this guy in here. Get him a win. Give him somebody he can beat. Let's not be stupid. Let's not be stupid. There's a little bit of life left. Let him have some success. There's not much life left, though, in Michael Chandler. I was very high on Paddy. I bet a full unit on Paddy, which is not something you normally see me do. I don't normally put a full unit on a money line, conservative Ange. But I looked at this objectively. And while I do recognize skill for skill, Michael Chandler's probably the better fighter in a lot of aspects. Faster, stronger, great wrestler. I also looked at it from one of these gentlemen seems to take their career seriously and one does not. What was interesting about this fight, though, is Michael Chandler actually tried to win. I thought Michael Chandler would come in here just sitting on right hands, just sitting and waiting, bombing away, just looking for that typical nonsense that he's been doing, trying to be exciting. But that wasn't necessarily the case. He came in, shot a couple of takedowns, had some grappling, had Paddy's back, not in like true hooks in back, but like seatbelt position, had his back. Michael Chandler tried to win this fight, and he just couldn't. He just couldn't. And I don't know what it is. He's got some skills. Also, if you didn't know, Patricio Pitbull beat the fuck out of Michael Chandler when Michael Chandler was good. Beat the absolute fuck out of him. So that's how good Patricio is. But Paddy Pimblett absolutely worked him. Paddy is good. He's good. Because even when he got ragdolled a little bit, which he did, he got picked up, he got slammed to the ground a handful of times, which is concerning. It is concerning, especially for his future. Paddy Pimblett has decent hands. Paddy Pimblett has very good grappling. Paddy Pimblett, thank God, got a takedown. I bet on him to get over a half of a takedown, which means just get one at plus 120. That hit. Very nice. Shout out to Jacob, actually. He's the one who sent me. Jacob sent me that line to fuck with me. He's like, you're the one who thinks you're going to wrestle. Here you go. Well, I don't see the bet yet. Where's the bet? I don't see the bet yet. Well, there you go. Now you see it. Fucking idiot. Paddy Pimblett might actually be good. And that's a hard thing to say out loud. Because when he came into the UFC, he would fight with his chin up in the air, just begging to get knocked out. We never really saw the wild athleticism or dramatic improvements, but we have been seeing slow and steady improvements. Physically a beast. He is fucking big for this weight class. He's tall. He's jacked. His cardio seems spectacular. He wasn't breathing with his mouth open at any point, even through the grappling exchanges. We know he's a very good grappler. The striking has been getting put together. His chin wasn't quite as high. Maybe it was like there instead of there. Paddy Pimblett might actually be good. He is 7-0 in the UFC. 9-0, I believe, is his current win streak. The UFC does need to be careful, though, because now he's in a weird spot where he just took Michael Chandler's ranking. And I don't know what it was. Maybe it's 5, 6, 4, something like that. That's a good ranking. And he just took it because that's how the rankings work in the UFC. Now, who's he going to fight? Who is he going to fight next? We're in a division that's pretty stacked with a lot of good fighters, and you don't necessarily want to get Michael Chandler, get Paddy Pimblett in there and get mauled because he's building quite a little resume for himself. They're turning into a little superstar situation here, and you don't want to ruin it because he has a ranking in front of his face, and then you throw him in a fight he doesn't belong in. They need to be very careful with who they match him up with next. Either a huge fight everybody cares about or another incremental fight. Paddy mentioned on the microphone, Charles Oliveira. Oof. That's tricky. He's not going to out-grapple Charles Oliveira. I don't know if he'll outstrike Charles Oliveira. So I don't know if Charles Oliveira is a great matchup. I don't know who they're going to give him next. Moicano is an interesting fight. I don't know if he'll beat Moicano, but that is an interesting fight. Moicano's been selling it. They could definitely make that something. That could be a co-main event of a pay-per-view. It could be a fight night main event, but make it a fight night main event, not in the Apex. I'm curious. Let me know who you think Paddy should fight next. And keep in mind, I think they should put him in a position to win. You need to build superstars. You need to build people up. Paddy has one of the best entrances in the UFC right now. That entire arena starts chanting. They start singing that song. That type of energy can't be manufactured. It just happens. Alexander Volkanovski has it when he walks out. Paddy Pimblett has it. It's getting better. It's developing. It's growing. You need to lean into that. You got to get him a win or some couple of mega fights. They need to be careful with Paddy. Don't ruin him. Sometimes, listen, the UFC does an amazing job convincing us when somebody who sucks doesn't suck. But sometimes they do an absolute shit job of taking a genuine prospect, an actual commodity, and torpedoing their career by giving them a couple of really bad matchups in a row. Because this is the most what have you done for me lately sport in the history of time. Just straight up. Straight up. You could be a Jets fan. And every time the Jets go out there, they get fucking slaughtered. But then next week, you're bright-eyed, you're bushy-tailed, and you're hopeful the Jets will go out there and maybe win a game. In MMA, you go out there, you get slaughtered. Everybody thinks you suck. Next time you go out, you suck. You're horrible. You suck. You're the worst. And it's not till you win 2 in a row that people are like, he's pretty good, actually. And then you lose. You suck. You suck. You suck. In a what have you done for me lately sport, the UFC has to be very careful to not get Paddy put out to pasture. 3 bad losses in a row. Now he's useless. That's the situation Michael Chandler's in. No fault of his own, other than the fact that he fights like an idiot. So I guess no fault of the UFC's. They're putting him in big fights. He fought, he's a ranked guy. What are they supposed to do? He's very exciting. I don't know what they do with Paddy next. Maybe Moicano, but I think they should give him a winnable fight. And then we had the main event of the evening. This was a good fight. It was also an insanely frustrating fight. And the reason it was frustrating is because Diego Lopes did nothing. He did nothing. He had a couple moments of big success, but he never followed up. Never followed up. He lost that first round. Pretty clear, right? He landed clean a couple of times. Looked like he had Volk rocked, right? Volk stumbled around a little bit a few times and then just sort of shook it off and got back in there. Volk engaged. Saw some wrestling out of him. It was always clear. I think everybody thought. I don't think anybody thought that Diego Lopes was the better fighter, right? I think every single person who picked Diego or didn't pick Diego recognized that Alexander Volkanovski was the better fighter, the more technical fighter, the more skilled fighter. The narrative, though, which I bought into and I believed as well, he's old, he's chinny, and Diego Lopes is just going to be too fast and hit too hard. We watched him when he fought Brian Ortega. He knocked that dude's head into oblivion. And there were flashes of it. At the end of that second round, Diego Lopes cracks Alexander Volkanovski. Drops him, has him in a lot of trouble. And you know what? If that wasn't the end of the second round, and let's say it was the middle of the second round, maybe we have a different situation. Probably not, because we saw the rest of that fight and Diego was gun shy. Because there was more than one time where Diego landed really clean. Diego got Volk in a lot of trouble. Had him rocked, had him wobbled. In the entire fourth round, the second half of the fourth round, Alexander Volkanovski was literally running away. He tried to be like, oh, eye poke. And maybe he thought it was an eye poke because it was like the side of the glove that went into the eye. And the ref was like, that was not an eye poke. Keep fighting. And then he was literally running backwards. Got to his corner, said, I couldn't see. And do you think in that moment, when Alexander Volkanovski is running backwards, avoiding the fight, because he is very clearly in trouble, Diego pounced? Yeah, for 4 seconds. Through one combination, pounced for 4 seconds, then let him go. Then was like too hesitant, just kind of frozen in time. And I mentioned this. That's why the bet for me was Diego inside the distance, decision, no action, because I knew Diego wasn't going to get finished. So worst case, I was getting a refund. And that is what happened. I got a refund. I lost no money on this fight whatsoever. But I said, are we worried that the moment will be too big and Diego will be frozen in time? And people are like, are you crazy? Are you crazy? Diego? No. That seemed to be the case. I don't know if he was conserving energy. I don't know if he was frozen. I don't know. Maybe that's his fight style and we just haven't noticed that the dude doesn't throw. Maybe we just haven't noticed that he does not let his hands go, because that's what we got here. Volkanovski was always the better fighter. Dean Thomas said it best on the broadcast. Dean Thomas said, Diego Lopes needs to make this a dirty fight. Volkanovski is better. Diego needs to go out there, bomb away, try to take his head off, and just go balls out. And if he gasses, he gasses. Who cares? That's exactly what he should have done. It seemed like he was trying to conserve energy. 25 minutes, and he was super fresh in the fifth. He was yelling, he was screaming. At one point, at the end, he did the whole Max Holloway thing, points to the ground. Volk said, okay. Volk wants to be cool, but he's also not stupid. So Volk throws one punch and runs away. Diego threw zero. Diego did the point of the ground thing and then didn't even throw the punch. I don't know why he was gun shy, but the stats are insane. If you look at the stats, Diego was landing nothing. He was throwing nothing, landing nothing. But he had the much bigger shots in a world where damage is the only thing that matters. In a world where damage is the only thing that matters. To me, Volk's eyes were completely fucked. He had a big gash here, a big gash here. He had a gash on this side. No, I'm not trying to say Diego won. I personally would have scored it 2-2 going into the fifth. Diego, to me, won the second round. He dropped Volk at the end of the second round. It was a somewhat close round that I was going to score for Volk, and then Diego dropped some bad. All right, well, there you go. Stole the round. That's your round now. First, he clearly lost. Third, seemed to lose again. Fourth, he had Volkanovski running for 2 minutes of a 5-minute round. Running, and then nothing else really happened in that round other than when Diego got him hurt, Diego got him wobbled, and Diego had him running. So 2-2 going into the fifth. The fifth, Volk won. So no case here from me that Lopes won this fight. But it's annoying because the case is he could have. I very much feel he could have won this fight. And everybody that's like, Volk is back, vintage Volk, he looked good. But that dude was rocked, wobbled, knocked off balance way too many times for people to be saying vintage Volk. Way too many times. He fought somebody who had never been in a 5-round fight before. He fought somebody who is this young in their career. And Diego Lopes is good. I picked Diego to win, as did Jacob, notably. But I would be a little careful when we start saying vintage Volk. Because who's he going to fight next? Evlaev? It's going to be tricky. I'm a little frustrated. Diego Lopes was so close. I would rather he got mauled. I would rather 5-0 and he just got absolutely lit up every angle. It's frustrating to see a fight that is within reach and you didn't throw that extra punch. You didn't push a little harder. You didn't cut off the cage. It's one thing to get out-techniqued. It's another thing to get, I don't want to say out-dogged because Volk didn't out-dog him. Volk beat him with technique. And there were opportunities for Diego to win. And he didn't take them. He didn't try. I don't know if the moment was too big. I don't know if he was conserving energy. I don't know what it was. That was a little bit frustrating, but congratulations to Volk. Couldn't happen to a better dude. Like I said, I didn't lose any money on this fight whatsoever. And when he won, I was like, good for him, dude. Good for him. He's one of the most likable guys in the history of this sport. How can you not root for him? Good for Volkanovski. Guys, this was a spectacular fight card. UFC 315 is in a month. It's in a month. We have a week off and then 2 events. And actually, it's in 3 weeks. It's not a month. We have a week off, 2 events back-to-back, and then UFC 315. And the looks of that card, that could be just as good as this one was. Go to the website. Go to WeWantPicks.com and unlock all the tools. Use the break to do research. Start grinding now. Do the tape study. This is just one of many tools. This is the latest, but one of many tools. We also have picks. We have bets. We have an artificial intelligence. Everything you could ever need heading into a fight week. And that fight week for you is going to be UFC Kansas City, UFC Des Moines, and then UFC 315. A bunch of spectacular fight cards. They are not in the Apex at all in April. No April Apex whatsoever. WeWantPicks.com. Click become a member. It's freaking $10. It's $10. You could close your eyes, ignore every single pick and bet, and just use the tools, and you're still saving an incredible amount of money. WeWantPicks.com. Click become a member. At the top, UFC Kansas City bets and picks are up right now, ready to go, and the tools are fully loaded, clear through UFC 315. And if you want $50, we'll send you $50. Go to any one of our affiliate partners at WeWantPicks.com/bets. Use the link to sign up, make a new account, make a deposit. They're going to pay me. It's an affiliate link. I'm going to get that money. I'll slice off some of it and I'll give you 50 of it and we're good to go. I make a couple bucks. You make a couple bucks. Everybody is doing well. Good luck, guys. I appreciate every last one of you. And depending when you're watching this, tune in tomorrow. Like, subscribe, do all things because I have a UFC Kansas City breakdown ready to go.